Hi.
They're so cute.
Yep.
They have.
Hi. Are you photobombing the interview?
Yeah.
I feel like you are.
I know. I know.
Charlotte. Go lie down. Go lie down. Charlotte, go lie down.
Our photo bummer.
Go look after Winnie. They sit there. Lie down there. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Come on, Dan.
Hi, Winnie. Hi,
Wanna lie down
sweetie. Oh, look at her looking in your eyes. Are you getting this, Scott? Oh, so sweet.
She's sniffing my clothes because I'm usually in sweatpants. Which, you know what? I told you I was going to be when I was still in the ICU.
Yeah.
I said, you know, until I come back to work, you won't see me in makeup, or I will be walking around in sweatpants and no makeup. And that's pretty much been it.
So this is a big deal.
I did this for you and for Scott.
What's life been like?
It's different. And it's funny talking to you about it because as mothers and mothers who work, and we work a lot of the same shift and everything, we always talked about, like, are we using our time the right way, or what's it going to take to really shake up our world and make us realize that it's okay to sort of focus on yourself and take some downtime. And for me, this did it. And I don't want it to be something like that for somebody else, but you know, we were talking about it. And
Always.
Yeah.
I do feel when I come and visit you that there is a sense of calm about you, a sense of peace, because you've had to give your brain a break.
I know. And I think I thought I was like that before, and now I know I wasn't. You know, we live a pretty hectic life. I think most people do nowadays. Just everything's faster, and it's weird because you hear other people say things like, you know, if they have something like this happen to them, a real health scare, you know, it was kind of a blessing, but now I get it.
What do you remember about that night, December 23rd?
It was such a regular night, and you would get this. You know, I finished the series of newscasts with Carlo, and we said goodbye to each other, and I think we were both going for our Christmas vacation, and I took some pictures, because I look at Instagram, and I look at that last picture I posted at work, never knowing how my life was going to change in a matter of hours, just wishing everyone a happy holidays. And I came home, and I was just putting things away, and I bent down to put a pair of shoes back, and this incredible pain spread across the top of my head and down the back into my neck, like I'd never felt before.
You explained that to me when we talked while you were in the ICU, and I just imagined it like a sledgehammer to you.
It was. And we were talking about the new strains of COVID, and I thought, is this a symptom?
Right.
And then there's a part of you that at that time, I was afraid to go to the hospital.
It was a time when a lot of patients were being admitted because of the surge into the ICU. And so I remember you telling me that your husband wanted to take you, and you said, no, let me try and sleep it off.
Right.
But then by the next morning, you knew that something was wrong.
Not even the next morning.
Hours.
Just, yeah, once you become physically ill, then you know that's your body saying you need to get out of here.
So did you go to urgent care first?
No, my husband took me straight to Scripps Encinitas, dropped me off on the curb, and I went into the tent they had set up outside at the time with a lot of people that were there with COVID symptoms. And when they came to get me to wheel me inside, I could just hear various people saying, I can't breathe, I'm having trouble breathing. The whole thing was very surreal and frightening. And they thought because the pain had sort of spread down into my neck and my shoulders, and it was very intense, and I still had a headache, she's probably got meningitis. Oh. So they did a scan just to be sure of my head, and then they had a lumbar tap set up that I was going to go get, and the doctor came back in and said, we're not going to do the lumbar tap. Your scan actually showed something really surprising. And I said, what? And he said, you have a significant amount of blood on your brain. And as a health reporter, in that moment, I wasn't quite sure what that meant. So that's where the learning curve started for me.
People hear bleeding on the brain and they think aneurysm or stroke. What did you have?
This is very similar to that, but with a stroke or an aneurysm, it's an artery. This is a vein. So it's just, that's the difference. It was called technically a subarachnoid hemorrhage.
And when you did more research into this, it's not something that is often survivable.
You know, I think over half the people that suffer them don't survive. And I didn't know that at the time, and I know my husband did because he wouldn't stay off the computer, and my daughter said, you did too. I had to talk him down from, please don't overread things online because it's not going to help at this point. It's just scaring you.
Is that part of what allows you to have the calm and the peace? You have to. You just survive something that many people don't. That's huge.
It's not that I'm looking out so much for my own health, like, don't do that, something might happen to you. It's more like a sense of gratitude that makes me not worry about small things anymore.
And you physically can't do too much or overtax your body because you'll get exhausted fast.
Yeah. I nap. I go to bed early. I used to sleep maybe 7.5 hours. Now I usually sleep 9. That's all just sort of mundane stuff. But
and working the night shift, though, we wouldn't go to bed until 1 in the morning.
And we're on for the last part of our shift. There's no winding down until we're in the car on the way home.
Right.
So I quite often would come home wide awake. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure you know that.
Yeah.
You get home and you're wired.
Do you want to talk a little bit more about the condition?
Sure.
What do you know about it, and who's susceptible, or don't they know?
Well, in my case, I can tell you one thing, that even doctors at the highest level, I was taken to Scripps La Jolla where they specialize in this kind of trauma, there's still a lot of mystery about the human brain. As far as why it gets injured and how you recover from the injury, if you're fortunate enough to recover. And I've been told after a very extensive neuropsych exam that my recovery could be 24 to 36 months.
You're still healing, you're
Yes.
still recovering.
Yeah. My challenge now is if I had to work under something that was pressure situation time sensitive, that I would struggle with, which is pretty much our job description.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the bright lights and the noises.
Yeah. There is that light sensitivity, sound. I take earplugs to the movie theater. Which is funny. I know people around me are wondering what's going on. I went to see the James Bond movie the other night, and I kept taking the earplug out when the conversation would lower, and then for the action stuff, they've got to go back in.
People who follow you on social media would know, but I don't know how many of our viewers know that you are a vegetarian. Mm-hmm. You work out all the time. You've got the picture-perfect health scenario, and yet you still had this brain bleed.
It can happen to anybody, is what I learned. And I don't want to scare people when I say that, but this comes down to when your body is telling you you need help or you need to go to the hospital, listen to it. Because the doctor in the emergency room said to me, we've looked at your veins, and the word he used was they're pristine. So we don't know why this happened to you. We think it might just be one sort of rogue vein that burst, and ideally this is a one-time thing and you'll never have another incident like this.
Because of the pandemic, a lot of people are putting off their regular health checks. They're afraid to go to the doctor.
They're afraid to go to the emergency room.
So what would you tell people?
Don't be afraid. The one thing I realized when I got there, and I went there at the height of the pandemic in December, they had everything under control. And in my experience, the hospital system was.
That's great.
Yeah,
because I was worried for you. We were on the FaceTime call. I still can't believe you FaceTimed me from the ICU. That is pretty surreal.
Everything about it was surreal. And, you don't have anyone to talk to because when you're in the ICU, you have a room to yourself. So I would chat to the nurses, and I remember saying once, I hope I'm not talking too much and taking up your time. And they looked at me and said, oh, you're the only patient we have that's conscious. Everyone else was a COVID patient on a ventilator.
I remember you texted me and said, Merry Christmas from the ICU. And
Yeah.
I thought, what happened? Because no one would ever imagine that something like that could happen to you.
To anyone.
You're so healthy. So what have you been doing? I know you've been baking, because I've enjoyed some of your amazing homemade breads and loaves, pies. Is that therapeutic a
It
little
is
bit?
very therapeutic. Anything I've been told by my doctors that you weren't doing before, try and vary your schedule a little bit, what you do each day, which is a wonderful challenge to me. So I try to avoid a routine. And if you think about our work lives, to make them really effective, we're usually bound to a routine. So part of my challenge has been shaking up a routine. And if I do exercise, not doing it at the same time every day, or just taking the dog for a really long walk and realizing that I don't have to be back home at a certain time.
I think that's been lovely. I've seen some of your posts about just enjoying, being able to take your dog on a walk, but then also to sit down on a bench and enjoy the view for a little bit.
Yep.
That's something.
Soak it in.
It's also got to be a little bit of a grieving process too over the routine that you used to have.
It is. There's not any part of me that's being disingenuous when I say this at all, but that was my dream job. That job that I had. That was it. I loved it. I wasn't even invited to audition for that job. I just knew it was available, and I phoned and said, I'm in California, can I stop by the station? And they said, sure, and they let me audition, threw my tape in with 5 other tapes they were going to show to a focus group, and I got the job. And as far as my job went, there wasn't a day that went by that I didn't think of that.
You made it happen.
Yeah.
That would be another great lesson, I think, for people today, especially during the pandemic when a lot of people are reevaluating what it is that they do.
You'd be surprised what you can do.
Go for it.
Yeah, yeah. And then I met another woman who was there to audition for an anchor job.
I remember meeting
After
you.
I'd
You were
been there.
so warm and kind. Because, you know, you just kind of show up and no one really wants to talk to you, especially if there are other people there that want the same job. And you were so kind. I remember you embracing me, and the rest is history.
And she got the job, and I was happy about it too. That was selfish of me, but I liked you, and I was hoping you would get the job.
We've had a lot of fun through the years. What year was it when you started?
That was 2001.
20 years.
20 years. Wow. You know, when so many things fell into place, you were hired, and then we had this goofy reporter that left and went to Nebraska, and then I was fortunate. I said, remember that Carlo guy? Can we bring him back? He's anchoring now, and he came back, and it was just so much happiness. I mean, people, you know, oh, we're a team, we're like a family, but I mean, we really have been.
We have been. And we've missed you so much.
I've missed it.
It's not the same walking in. I don't get my makeup partner. We used to always share great stories about our family.
Oh, the conversations we've had in that dressing room.
Oh, you always have wonderful advice. You still do. And that's the thing. You're not going anywhere. You're still so embedded in this community.
No, I mean, things have to move on. The station has to move on. But it's been very kind and supportive and said, if you ever want or can come back to work in any capacity, please let us know. You're still a part of our family. So that's been very important to me, too. In the beginning, I took it really easy, like resting, crossword puzzles, maybe try to watch a show on TV. And then as my recovery has progressed and I've gotten physically stronger, I'm just sort of now realizing there are some other things I can do. I still love and I'm in love with what I did for a living. Like it was what I wanted to do. You know, if you'd asked me as a high schooler or a college kid, what do you want to do? I got to do specifically what I wanted to do, which was a low percentage goal. You know what I mean? People would tell you, no, not many people actually get to do that, and I did. So can I continue doing it? I don't know, but I'm very thankful for what I have done. And the concept of embracing a new phase in my life has kind of been forced on me, but at the same time, I think it's something that's very healthy. And I think whether you continue doing what you're doing or not, just the idea of knowing that life has different phases and welcoming them and seeing what's next for you, keeping an open mind, that's something that's new for me, but I like it.
I think it's great. There's so many opportunities. How did you and your doctors come to this really poignant decision?
Well, I was just told that in my case, because of what we do for a living, and it's, there's a certain amount of stress and you have to perform at a high rate of speed. And as I go on during the day, my cognitive function isn't as strong as it is earlier in the day. That's why I always tell people to come at 10 or 11. These are the best moments in the day. My family gets me at the end of the day when my memory's bad, when I forget words, and that's okay because I'm not at work. But they said to me, realistically, if you were at work during this time, you'd be at work during your biggest struggle. And that could actually, it could upset you. That could set you back. We don't know. But they said my progress is very good, so I should keep doing what I have been doing. Let's not mess with that. And I have learned that the brain can heal, depending on the circumstance. So to be told by experts that your recovery so far is remarkable, when they say, but, I'm open to that. But what? But you still need to do this. Okay, I'm fine with that. I focus on the positive part of it. Can I operate at the level I was operating at before? No. But for now, that's okay.
You have had so much support from viewers in the community. I know they've reached out to you directly. They've reached out to me. They comment on social media. They follow you to see if there's anything that they can catch a glimpse of the phase of healing that you're in. What do you want to say to them?
Thank you. The support I got from viewers, people that I've met over the years, through the station, through functions that we've done, and people that I've never even met, has been absolutely overwhelming. And heartwarming, and I got cards and messages, and I still have people reach out to me. And because I didn't know for so long what the future held for me, and the station let me take my time, I wasn't able to answer some of their questions. And it wasn't that I didn't want to. I just wanted to be careful about it and make sure that I was making the best decision for me. I was following my doctor's advice. I just wanted to do the right thing. And I hope people will continue to reach out to me. I love hearing from everybody. And for that, social media has been wonderful.
Right. We've talked about, especially having teenagers, sometimes the negative impact of social media, but
Yeah.
It has been a wonderful platform to stay in touch with you. And I know that you read, even though you may not respond to each one, you read every comment, every email, every post, every card. Usually I'm coming here with like a bag full of cards and gifts.
She is. Marcella's been my mail delivery person.
I think there's actually still a bunch at the station. I'll need to bring the next time. But people just really worried about you. We have talked before that because of the job that we do, we're in people's living rooms. And during the pandemic, we joked about how now you're in our living room.
Right.
But really, they got to know you so well, and you are a part of their family. And just because you're not actively working doesn't mean that you're still not part of people's family.
I had a lot of people reach out to me and tell me about their experience with brain injury too, which I also found very heartwarming and supportive. When I would describe what it was like, what I felt, what I went through, I was surprised at the number of people that came forward and said I went through something similar, or I know somebody that has gone through something similar. So it was like a supportive community that just sort of formed in my life out of what I've been through, and I still reach out and talk to some of those people online.
It's been 10 months. It's probably been a really long 10 months for you.
It has been long. Parts of it seem long and parts of it seem like a bit of a blur. I can't say it enough. If you feel something's wrong, reach out. Right. Go to the doctor, go to urgent care, do something.
Because time really does matter. And in cases of strokes, I know you didn't have a stroke, but there are ways, and you've done stories on them, that those can be reversed to help protect the brain.
There's no shame or embarrassment in being told at the hospital, actually, you're okay. Yeah. That's the best case scenario. So I think that holds some people back. I'm sure it's fine. I don't want to go. I don't want to waste anyone's time. No, leave that to the medical professionals. It's my experience.
Right.
Yeah.
How many hours did it take before you went in?
More than I thought. I think I was sort of drifting in and drifting out of sleep, and then I actually started to get violently ill, and my husband said, we gotta go.
Wow. A few hours?
Yes. Probably 3 hours, 4 hours.
And
Which
part
is
of
which
you-
is it, the interesting thing, Marcelle, is think about the number of medical stories that you and I have done.
Yeah.
But when something like that happens to you, you don't have the capacity to think, I know what's going on.
And
The
you just
ideal
think-
scenario is that somebody else is there and says, this isn't right. Because I don't know what I would have done if I was by myself.
And especially it happened around midnight. You just want to go to bed and try and sleep it off. But that was nothing to sleep off. You were very
I took
lucky.
Tylenol. I put pain patches on my shoulder. I thought I'd pulled something because maybe I'd worked out too hard at the gym that day. But then it kept shooting back into my head and I couldn't figure out why that was. And that's when I started thinking, is it the new strain of COVID? I mean, I think I told my husband at first, I think I've got it.
You did. You told
Yeah.
me that the next day. So what you had, and I can't say it. I know you.
A subarachnid hemorrhage.
Did they have to stop it, or how did your brain heal?
It heals. The ideal scenario is that they don't have to go in and do any kind of surgery, and that the body absorbs that vein and the blood.
And yours had already started doing that?
It started to. They checked every day. I had a battery of tests every day while I was in the ICU, and I welcomed all of them because the news kept getting better and better. And then 3 months after the incident, I went for an angiogram, a follow-up angiogram, and I just remember the doctor looking at me while he was scanning my brain and saying, "It looks great."
Oh,
Yeah.
that's amazing. So when you think back at your amazing 20-year career, your dream job, what are the highlights?
Oh, I can't narrow it down.
I know this is the time of year you would normally be out there training for the
walk,
3-day.
the 3-day walk. I got to do some incredible things. I think the highlight of my career was being invited to the White House to interview President Obama one-on-one. I mean, that's just such a rare moment in a journalist's career. Not everybody gets to experience that, and I did.
What do you remember about that interview and the experience?
That I was what you would call a veteran journalist at the time, and I was shaking.
Yes, you're usually cool
You're
as a cucumber.
very aware of the level of what you're doing when something like that happens. There's no, I've got it under control. You know, when you're at the White House and they walk you down a hall and into a room and the cameras are set up because they're in control of everything, and somebody reaches out to you to shake your hand and it's the President of the United States, it's nothing casual about that.
That's a cool moment.
Yeah.
What did you ask him? Did you ask him anything personal? I know you had to stay on topic, but I feel
The
like
topic was trade, so we stayed on topic with San Diego and our port and trade and how this is going to affect us. And then toward the end, the NHL playoffs were on, and I asked
remember that.
who he was cheering for, and he said, "Well, of course, Chicago," and we laughed.
Yes, I remember you had a little moment with
Yeah.
him over your love for hockey.
And we were told to stay on topic and wrap it up, and I thought, I'm sneaking one in. I'm not going to be back here anytime soon. I'm sneaking one in.
Exactly. How many 3 days did you do?
17.
17.
Yeah.
Is it weird not to be out there training?
Yes, I still walk, and when I'm walking, I think about training.
What kind of relationships did you form along the way?
Oh, I worked with Komen, I worked with the Heart Association, and I've done so much work with the Humane Society. And I miss our pet friends segments when they would bring an adoptable pet in. I miss that a lot. That's such a silly thing. It was, but a little bright light, and I'd take the dog around and introduce them to everybody.
We do.
Or cat or hamster or whatever they brought for me that day.
We do a lot of heavy news that really affects us as well. And I know that was always, we're like, oh, it's Pet Friends Day.
If you love animals, you really look to them.
Yeah.
In times of stress, and I was lucky to have 2 dogs in the house during all of this. I mean, and my kids too, but the dogs.
Your family has been a big support. The fact that it happened during the pandemic allowed for you to have more of that family time.
My daughter had come home from LA to stay with us, and I felt like I got a lot of time back that I'd missed. I've made up a lot of time, which has been nice.
As working moms, we feel a lot of guilt. That's another thing you and I would talk about a lot in the makeup room.
With Obama, it reminded me of when we were with Vice President Biden.
Yes. And he talked to Kirsten on the phone.
Oh my gosh, it was
Did you do that interview with her?
Yes, we went down to the port.
That was cool too.
Yeah, that also was about the port and trade. And Scott, the photographer who's shooting this story, came along with me for that one. You know what it's like if you have people with you that you work with and have worked with for a while, you're a little less nervous. I met the president and the vice president, yeah. And I interviewed Oprah once. But it was a satellite interview.
But that's cool.
It's Oprah. Come on, yeah.
And satellite interviews are a big thing. I mean,
Yes.
now a Zoom interview seems like a dime a dozen.
Right.
That was like, I had to beam up to the satellite and back.
I got to
down.
go to New York once and host a show with Anderson Cooper. That was pretty cool.
Yes.
Yeah, that was fun. I will say, I don't know if you think this way, but a lot of the really big moments in your career, they seem a little bit like a blur in hindsight if they've been really, really sort of next level exciting.
Yeah. No, you've had a lot. And then, I know you sat next to Carlo for, 12 years?
50 years.
Who's counting? He really misses you.
I miss him. He's just a big dork, and I miss him all the time.
His dad jokes, I'm sure you really miss.
Anytime I say anything like that about him, I think to myself, Carlo would laugh. I know you're going to laugh when you hear this, Carlo. I know you're laughing. We had moments as an anchor team, like laughing too hard on the commercial break over something, trying to sort of lighten things up, tears in our eyes, trying to get it under control. And I blame him for a lot of that. So, I've been very lucky. The job I had, the people I've worked with, and the experiences that have come my way during the last 20 years, I am nothing but thankful.
We all think about the end of our careers and moving on to a different new phase. I know this is not how you intended to leave, but really you went out on top, you're going out on top, and you still have so much more to do.
And I don't know what I'm going to do. Is it the way I thought my career would end? No, I had my 20-year marker coming up. I thought, maybe they'll have a cake for me in the newsroom in April or something. I don't know, but you never know what life's going to bring you. And you never know how quickly it can change until it does.
I know you want to do more good because you've done a lot of good with all the charities and the nonprofits that you've worked with.
I'll find something. But I want to wrap around onto that. When I talk about life changing, I took my family on a trip to Disneyland because I knew this job was open. And when they did hire me for it, they said, but you have to be here in a month or so. So that was my first quick change. I didn't really see it coming. I wasn't totally prepared for it. I just went with it. I got the job. I got settled in here. And I feel like it ended kind of the same way. Like I just didn't see it coming, but sometimes that's okay.
There's so much adventure and hope, and the unknown is sometimes not a bad thing.
No. I think maybe if I knew I was going to retire or this was going to be the end and I really sensed some sort of finality coming for a long time, it would have been an entirely different experience. But in that way, I'm okay with what's happened.
I mean, you're amazing. You really are. And we've been so lucky to have your quick wit. You're so funny.
This is also my dream place to live. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. I like it here. The dogs like it here.
And we'll be out at farmers markets and enjoying Sunday brunches together.
Yes.
Yeah.
She is the sample queen at the farmers market, by the way. Lucadia Farmers Market. We've taken her before, and
I not only sample though, I do buy.
Yes, you do. We take big bags, and
And then poor Carlene's got the extra bags, and I gotta stuff in there because I buy too much.
Yeah.
So often in life, I feel like we're expected to know what we're gonna do next, and I think it's great that right now there are no expectations. You're just living for you.
Right. And if you do have a plan in life and you've set certain stages that you think you're going to go through, be prepared for that only being sort of an outline of what's going to happen, because ultimately life makes that decision for you. Right? Right? I remember initially I was FaceTiming with you from the ICU and you said to me, "You seem so calm." And I said, part of it was because I was afraid I was going to have another one. So I just kept talking like this, and I was really relaxed. Because there's a 21-day window they want you to get through without having another episode. And I just talked like that the whole time.
I remember.
I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but that was my take on it at the time in the hospital.
No, you did seem very calm. Almost like an eerie but beautiful calm.
Oh, that was the morphine. Yeah.
I'm not lacking for any humor. I mean,
She's still very witty. She hasn't changed. So life is good.
Life is good. I think once you can do a lot more than you think you can and overcome a lot more things. This has nothing to do. One of the last things I had to go through before I left the hospital to get the green light to go was an MRI, and anyone that's ever had one knows how horrible they are and loud they are. They said, well, we're going to do your head, your neck, and your back, and it's going to take about an hour and a half.
Ooh, that sounds stressful.
And I thought, if this is going to get me home, I just went to some place inside myself and found some sort of peace during all that noise and got through that hour and a half.
That's awful. A lot of
But you know what I mean? If somebody said
sound,
that to you,
yes.
if you really wanted to go home and somebody said, okay, you
It's
just
gonna
have to
take-
get this out of the way, that changes it. If they said, do you think you could sit through one? I would have said no. If they said, do you think you could sit through one to go home?
right.
Yes, I can.
Then you had a focus and a reason to be in there. Everyone at work, they know that we're close, so they always ask me how you're doing, if you're coming back. What do you want to say to all the people that we've worked with for so many years?
Oh, I'm still coming back because they have to give me a cake.
And an 8-ball.
And an 8-ball.
Okay.
And I don't know what the questions are going to be for the 8-ball, but I'm game for all of it. I'll probably cry. If there's a cake, Carla will probably have the first piece.
I don't think so. I think
You know, you worry. If you ever do change and then you think back to things you used to worry about, if you could tell yourself 10 years before,
What would you tell yourself?
I think in general in life, you know, if your older self could tell your younger self something, what would it be? And it would just be to not worry about little things. Don't worry about it. Because when something really happens, none of that matters anyway.